76 days to the 2019 presidential election, politicians have put on their boxing gloves and are ready to take on their opposition counterparts with campaigns in full swing. Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Standpoint. I am Veronica Danik-Boy. On the show today, we will be discussing all things 2019 with special focus on the presidential election as well as the state of the nation. I have with me strategic members of the Buhari Osinbajo campaign organization, Dapo Akintosun and Wale Fakponda. Also in the studio is the governorship candidate of the Advanced Nigerian Democratic Party in Lagos, Segun Musa. Gentlemen, thanks for coming to the program.
Thank you very much for having me here.
All right, it's now 2 weeks since the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, lifted the ban on political campaigns, and 2 weeks since President Muhammadu Buhari unveiled his next-level campaign. The unveiling was greeted with applause and also the controversy of plagiarism. President Buhari's campaign managers were accused of lifting the logo of a project of Winthrop University Partnership Network. All right, let me start with you, Segun. When you heard about the next-level campaigns by the president, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I'm expecting so much. I'm expecting we departing from the Stone Age approach to governance.
When you say Stone Age approach,
like if you look at most of the policies for this outgoing dispensation, we are expecting that the presidency by APC should be departing with some of those policies that did not actually work and did not take the country to the next level as expected. And what we're seeing now is more like returning back the same system that we've all identified that has not been adding value to the system. I would like to start with the issue of transportation. No value added has been put into the area of transportation. The health care has not been taken good care of. The education is still like in the Stone Age and is even getting worse. The port reform is not what actually we are getting now, and there's a lot that we are expecting from the new manifesto or the new campaign policies that will actually drive the system to the next level. I want to believe that if we are able to get people that are saddled with responsibility of taking this country to the next level, we should be able to get something better than what we are getting now. I want to also believe that the incumbent government, if truly coming up with something that will be a value added, they should be redefining the policy aside what we're seeing now.
All right, the gentlemen here are part of the presidential campaign, so I'm sure that they are ready to, because they've been taking notes as you were speaking. So I'm certain that they are ready to actually counter what you're saying. Well, you heard what Segun has said. So tell us what this next level is all about.
Well, I think the starting point, which we've always reiterated anytime we have the opportunity to talk about issues and happenings in governance, is very simple. And that is, we need to look at where we are coming from before now. You see, there was a government in power for the past 16 years of our democratic experience before the advent of this present government. And we knew where we were as a nation. Let us be very, very sincere with ourselves. We knew where we were in terms of infrastructure. We knew where we were in terms of diversification of the economy. We knew where we were in terms of security. We knew where we were in terms of the general well-being of Nigerians. And so, whether we are moving to the next level or not, the first question we need to ask ourselves is this: where were we before now, and where are we now? And so if you begin to isolate some of these issues that we've talked about, you will see that there have been significant and tremendous improvements in those areas.
Really?
Of course. I don't need to begin to itemize or list those high-level intervention in infrastructural development, for instance. But you and I know Lagos-Ibadan road, Lagos-Kano rail, Second Niger Bridge, Warri-Itape rail, all of these things were in total state of comatose before this government came in. Now this government is in, this government is reviving all of these things. So where do you move from there? You can only move to the next level. And then the antipode of that is for you to go backwards. So he's said that it's the archaic, if I hear him very well, the Stone Age, you know. I don't think there is anything Stone Age in trying to fix rail across the length and breadth of the country. I don't see anything archaic in expanding expressways. I don't see anything archaic in diversifying your economy to the point that you have encouraged massive investment in agricultural activities, that you have reduced your rice importation to about 90%. What exactly is archaic about that? I don't understand.
Perhaps he'll give you a feedback when Dakpo joins us, because he's been smiling, so I'm sure he wants to respond.
No, I've also wanted to thank my dear brother Segun for where he started from. At least he acknowledged that there's a next level, which means something has changed from where we're coming. I mean, if he says that there's a next level, and he's admitting that somehow we have moved away from where we were, and we're just looking at going higher. So when he then says that there's, the policy is still in the archaic way of governance, I am worried that what does he mean by archaic? Because today we can see technology in governance across all levels. For instance, you can pay your taxes. FIRS is a testimony in what technology can do. And this is something that has happened under this administration. You can now pay your taxes from your telephone. You can get your assessments anywhere. Your tax clearance certificates, you get online now. I mean, you want to get your driver's license, you want to get a national, international passport. I mean, these are things that are novel, that have not happened before. And if this administration that brought technology to bear in administration, we still call this Stone Age, then I want to see what the future holds. Because even in America, you still get your passport by post. You still have to go there. But in Nigeria, you don't do it on, you get visa on arrival now. These are things that have never happened in this country. And so when you say we're going to the next level, we're saying we have done thus well. You mentioned some areas where we have been totally backward before this administration came in. You mentioned healthcare. I mean, you know the state in which he was. From the time of Abacha, I remember one of the things Abacha complained about in his speech was that our hospitals have been reduced to consulting clinics. That was at the time Abacha took over. 19 years or 16 years of PDP did not see any change in that. For the first time, we're seeing money being put into the National Health Insurance Program. We can see things moving forward in terms of educational policy. Schools are being rebranded. Schools are being rebuilt. Those things were taken over by government. I remember my secondary school, Fimbers. It was a total chaos when under the 16 years of PDP, but now they've been returned to the missionaries. And we were able to rebuild the school, go to St. Gregory's College, and those schools of old in Lagos State are now rebuilt and coming out under this administration that is allowing things to move. You spoke about port reforms. What was the state where are we today? It was under the old administration that these things changed and were franchised to people who were connected to government. They were given long-term contracts and concessions, which this administration is trying very hard to. Intel is a story that can see millions of dollars were looted from this country. This administration has been able to take it back and say, no, enough of all that brigandage. And now we're getting accountability in government like never before. So when you say Stone Age, I'm wondering that, hey, where are we going to? But the truth is, and we would admit that things are moving forward. We're not where we should be as a country. If we had had good governance in the last 10 years, I can assure you that Nigeria will be where we will be, where we are now. But it is because there's now direction that we can talk of we're going to the next level. And I believe this document that we have seen now is what will take us from where we were and position this country. In another 4 years, the difference will be so clear. I mean, you know what has happened in the past has been total looting of the economy. The kind of monies that were stolen in this economy, people don't seem to make a connection between when you say trillions of dollars were stolen, and what the impact is on the economy. And I'll give an example. On the strategic alliance contract that was mentioned, 3 individuals sat down together and distributed $3 billion. $3 billion between 3 people, essentially. What is $1 billion today? We're talking of 365 billion naira. How much do we need to finish the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road? If this kind of money were not taken away from the economy, we'll be in a much better place today. But people don't understand that when you say this money was taken away, it just sounds like a figure. But when you understand the effect on how much salaries it would have paid for how much was the whole intervention? What is the budget of the country today compared to what 3 individuals took? And that is just in one. The probe on the defense industry has been going on from the beginning of this administration. They have not reached the bottom of it. And those are the millions and millions that individuals took away from this country that could have been used for the healthcare system, that could have been used to repair the rail system. Today, the rail is almost completed. And we can see advancement in the country. And I'm very happy that my brother noted that, and I'm sure he will agree with us that we can only go forward.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
But, okay, so now that he has made it clear, so the Stone Age, perhaps you might want to make it clearer for them.
Thank you very much. I'm not actually here to actually exchange words and
no, it's not about, like we said earlier.
What I'm here for is just to make sure we're able to get it right.
Definitely.
I am not anti this regime. I remember vividly the first era when the government was actually coming on board. I was one of the people that prepared document for transportation, for road, port reform and the rest for the government. They actually executed some of it, and some of
it were executed.
Yeah, some of it are still pending. But what I'm saying in essence, I'm not to hero worship or praise the regime. I won't be doing good to the regime. Mine is to critically look at areas that they've not actually performed excellently well and be able to highlight it. I'm not saying the government has not been doing well. Neither am I coming here to campaign for the government. But what I'm saying in essence is cataloging discussions here is all about adding value to the country. And if I'm seated here, I say the government has done 100% perfect, I'll be deceiving myself and deceiving Nigerians. But what I need to do is to identify areas that the government needs to improve upon. And that's why I emphasize that, look, there's need for us to look at the document the government is presenting now and criticize it in a constructive manner and make them understand what they really need to do.
Okay.
From what we've seen so far, it's like, see where we are coming from. I'm not actually referring to
It hasn't made as much
Stone
impact.
Age. Yes, I'm not talking about Stone Age as in the 60s or the 70s or 80s. I'm still talking about the trend of what we are unfolding now. The success of every government, really, when you want to measure, the barometer to measure the success of every federal government is the advancement of the state development. Because the government, the federal government, whether we like it or not, plays a critical role in development of all the state confines. Why you can only measure the performance of the state by the development within the local confine. So if I'm here saying, look, the transportation has not been improved as expected, the health sector, especially the primary health sector, that is still part of supervisory, the federal government still play a supervisory role. That's why we have virtually all the general hospitals congested now. They can't even attend to patients. There are some needs that you need to just go to your primary health center, you need to go to general hospital, because the primary health center is more like a chemist without medicine now. So I'm looking at government, looking at areas that they've actually failed. We'll be deceiving ourselves if we are saying this government has done 100% perfect. But we know we can identify, we can x-ray areas that the government has not actually done well. And these are the areas I expect the people that are anchoring the campaign for the government to begin to catalog discussion on that. Yes, we identify this area we've not done well. This is what we want to do next in this area. This area we've done well, we want to consolidate in this area. And these topical issues that we need to emphasize on. I'm an incoming governor in Lagos State. I already have my 5 pillars, and I'm going to look at all those pillars that will make Lagos to stand strong and make it viable. I'm expecting the campaign anchors to be talking about what action plan do we have for the port that is going to make it business friendly? Like we have now, like we have now, the port is not business friendly, whether we like it or not. Even the passage to the port
Yes.
What is the solution? I'm a state governor coming into office. Already I have my master plan for that. That you don't even need to, you can project.
But that route, as
Yes,
a state
there's
governor,
solution. I have the solution.
you have a solution
have the
to
solution
that.
as incoming
But
governor.
that is a federal route, isn't it?
No. You see, it is when a regime is not responsive and responsible that you begin to apportion blame to either the local government or the state or the federal government. There are measures you can take.
All right, we'll come to that. Let me quickly go on with what I'm asked to move on with now. Let's go to the real issues. The next level policy document has employment as its major thrust. Creating jobs was also part of President Buhari's 2015 campaign promises. How well has he delivered on this front, for him to deserve a second chance? You want to take on that?
Oh, well, let me just speak briefly on that. You see, one thing that we need to understand is that, quite honestly, when they were campaigning, they made quite a number of promises. But what they met when they got in were so mind-boggling. You see, Veronica, if you followed the events very well, at some point, the president cried out that, look, these people have totally bastardized this country. So now, they now needed to start a process of rebuilding the country afresh. And that is one of the reasons why even some of these apparent achievements of this government that we have listed, that's one of the reasons why these achievements were not so manifest until after the third year in office. Because they had to embark on a process of rebuilding the entire aspect of the Nigerian state.
Really?
Of course. I'm going to give you an example.
Please.
You see, in 2016, the Federal Executive Council, under the chairmanship of His Excellency the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, set up an audit committee to look at activities of federal government revenue generating agencies. Okay? And it was discovered that between 2010 to 2015, before they took over, the federal government revenue generating agencies had under-remitted about 223 billion naira, about $23 billion. There's no country that can create jobs in this kind of atmosphere. You see the level of mindless looting. You know, Mr. Akinyosun talked about strategic alliance contract of $3 billion just being shared by people. Do you know the level of infrastructure that is going to have on the society? Do you know the level of jobs that is going to come out of that? Those are the things that we're talking about.
So this is why we had more loss of jobs? Is that what it invariably led to? Because the National Bureau of Statistics said that more Nigerians lost jobs under this administration.
Let me ask you a question, Veronica. If you have someone in your home and that person, the stock in trade is to just keep stealing your resources, are you going to be economically viable? Are you going to be economically buoyant? It's a simple answer. It's a simple answer. So let's not deceive ourselves that things were okay before now. And the government, despite the fact that they then had huge challenges when they came in. The price of crude oil per barrel was $27 when they came in. Production cost was $25. So they had just $2 margin. Whereas you had a government that sold an average of about 130, 140, and in fact, it got to 148 at some point. Where is the savings? So you can then see for yourself that, look, it is very easy to explain the reason why they were lost. But the economy is picking up. You know how many people have been employed, directly or indirectly, in the various infrastructural interventions going on across the country? The other time, the Minister of
There
Power,
are accusations of partisanship in all of these interventions.
partisanship in building roads, partisanship in building rails. I don't understand what is the level of partisanship, which was a
In
contract.
terms of
These contracts were given-
interventions you're talking about,
Are you talking about the social intervention?
social interventions.
What is the level of partisanship there? There are states in Nigeria that are under and are controlled by the opposition party. The vice president are taking his trader money activities to those states. The governors of those states had accompanied him to the markets to go and interface with the market people. These are beneficiaries of the trader money. This 10,000 naira soft loan given to people as a result of the government enterprise and empowerment program. So where is the level of politics or partisanship there? Most of those people in those states are predominantly in the opposition. So those are the things that we're talking about. So we need to situate some of these issues properly for us to, if we love our country very well, and I actually, kudos to Mr. Musa for saying that he's not saying the government has not done well. He's just saying the government has not done 100%. I think you leave 100% only for God.
Because of the way the party, came and
Yes.
said it was going to do somewhere in 6 months, it was going to, the issue of powers, it was going to, revamp and bring about many changes.
I'm telling you now that sometimes you need to get in there for you to know the level of challenge that you are going to be confronted with. It is absolutely impossible for you to, from the outside, determine what is going on. But now, the audience table has been cleared. Now, the government has made
Has
the
it
proper...
really been cleared?
Oh, well, there's still a lot of activities going on in terms of probe and all of that. But clearly, the government has been set on the right path now. And so we are on auto cruise. And so that's why we're going to the next level.
Auto cruise. Is that what it is, Dapo?
You see, if I may start from where Wale dropped off there. And you mentioned something about loss of jobs.
Yes.
Loss of jobs is not something that started happening under this administration. I do remember that.
But statistics
I
show.
do, yeah, and I'm going to your statistics. I don't know what statistics you are referring to, but I know that many factories closed down in Nigeria before this administration came. All the textile industries went into a coma before this administration came in. Those were one of the largest employers of labor as an industry in Nigeria. The rubber factories shut down. Dunlop, Michelin, all those guys left Nigeria for other countries. Why? Because the operating environment had become unfavorable. Even in the time when this country was abounding with wealth, the industries were complaining. The farmers shut down because we imported all our rice. We could no longer grow rice anywhere in Nigeria with all the land we had in Kogi, Benue, and everywhere. But the same industries can now employ people. The textile industries are coming back. The rice industry, farmers are smiling to the banks now. The factories that had collapsed before are picking up. Why? Because now there's an increase in power delivery. Part of what this administration said they would do was sort out the power issues. Power delivery.
Would you say that has really been sorted out?
Definitely. Power delivery when this administration came in was about 2,000 megawatts. I do remember that in that period, I went for weeks on end in my house and in my office, which are in different parts of Lagos, without electricity for weeks.
But we've had issues of collapse.
Today, you see, an issue of a system collapse now is not as long as it used to take to sort out one. Secondly, you would also remember that today we are able to deliver as much as 7,000 megawatts of power. And when you talk about delivery of 7,000 megawatts of power, we're not talking of 1,000 megawatts. Do you know the effect of 1,000 megawatts? Now my barber, who had shut down business before, now does 24-hour service. At 10 p.m., if I want to cut my hair, I go to my barber. If he was running on a generator,
He would have closed.
He would have closed. But today, businesses can work longer. And that goes back to job creation you mentioned. You see, job creation is not only when I take people and employ them directly into civil service. No. But this administration, directly and indirectly, has been able to increase commerce, has been able to increase business opportunities for people by one increase in power delivery has helped people to work longer hours. Businesses that were shut down before, now they're having all kinds of rural power intervention schemes. If you go to Sura markets now, where there was no light for years on end, from the time I became a lawyer in Nigeria in 1991 or so, Sura market had always been in darkness. Today they have 24-hour power. If you go to Area market in Anambra State, they now have power 24/7. If you go to Kano, the markets there are getting power. And what you're seeing is that there's an intervention in places that are strategic. And if one market owner, one shop owner can work longer hours, she's going to employ more people. They will have more people distributing. So the value chain is increased, although it may not be government employment directly. Furthermore, in terms of government employment, the Empower scheme today has employed over 500,000 people. That is the largest social intervention scheme anywhere in the world. There's nowhere in the world that you find a social intervention scheme that employs 500,000 people within a space of 3 years. They've been able to do that successfully under the Empower scheme. People are not just employing them, they are training them and providing them some kind of monies that they can use to start their own businesses. So apart from creating the jobs for them, they're also empowering them to go and start more jobs. School feeding program that this administration has been doing, they are feeding children every day. I mean, today, over 9 million students are being fed in a day across the country. And
9 million?
Yes, and what is the effect of that? What is the effect of that is that the farmers who are planting food locally are now getting buyers for their produce. Middlemen who buy their produce of them, because you see when farmers plant in Nigeria, by the time they are planting, the middlemen have already paid them for the produce. Those guys are now in business again because all the produce that the farmers are producing, they are buying them. We now have people who are cooking, the caterers, who are now employed. The transporters who are moving the food to and fro are getting business. So when you talk of employment, it's not only until I bring you into civil service and pay you a salary that I create employment. So without a doubt, we can see an increase in employment in this administration, without any doubt. The Trader Money Scheme is providing people who had no opportunity at all to get a loan. Although, of course, in some parts, I know that we hear stories of fraudsters taking advantage of it, which is still a Nigerian problem. Every Nigerian is looking for a way to defraud other people. The government has come up with a scheme to say people who need money to do business, who the banks will never give a loan, who will never give money because they don't have collateral. I mean, look at what the statistics from AMCON showed. Only 100 people from the AMCON statistics, only 100 people were owing the country over 6 trillion naira. How much will that go to when you give small people 10,000 naira?
All right, we'll continue this discussion when we return from this break. Do stay with us. You're still watching Standpoint, and before we went on the break, Dapo was trying to explain to us how this government has been able to employ directly and indirectly. But Segun, it seems you want to respond or react to what he has tried to explain.
Yes, thank you very much. There is this understanding within our confine in this part of the world that if you're charged with a responsibility, if you're saddled with a responsibility, you take charge. I used to tell my team that, look, don't complain, fix it. I'm not coming on board as the governor of Lagos State, taking over from Ambode and saying this is what Ambode has done wrong. Whatever Ambode has done wrong, my responsibility is to fix it. And I want to appeal to the anchor of Mr. President that please let us depart from the era of this is what we met. As a medical practitioner, when a patient is brought to you, you diagnose and you take treatment. We are not Nigerians. If you look at the Nigeria of today, is different from Nigeria of 2016 or 15. Nigeria of today are more liberated, they are more informed, and they're looking at people cataloging discussions that will actually take us to the next level.
Yeah.
You talked about job loss, corporate organization leaving the country to other parts of the world. There are facts, the statistics are there. But the truth of the matter is, this regime is yet to begin to take ownership of business. I'm coming in as a governor. I'm creating heaven on earth for business community. I'm taking ownership of business.
Making
how do
the
I do that?
environment
Business friendly. Business friendly. I'm taking ownership. The concern of the business community is my concern. If a single business shut down in Lagos today, my revenue will be dropped. I will never allow that to happen as a responsive and a responsible government. And the only way you can do this and improve on capacity building, that all these corporate entities will begin to do their corporate social responsibilities in terms of training, in terms of sponsorship, in terms of scholarship and the rest, is for you to encourage them. When their business is improving, they will do more. The happiness of the business community is the revenue of the government. My role to build capacity, to increase job opportunity and employment, is for me to make sure the problems of the business community is my problem. There's this disconnect between the business community and the public and the government. If you look at most of these government parastatals ministry, the way they relate with the business community has always been, we need your revenue. Whether you are nosediving, whether your business is dying or not, they're careless about that. It's only about revenue, revenue. If that's the same practice all over the world, definitely we won't have all this multinational expanding today. I want to believe that any responsive and responsible government should do beyond we are donating money. The world has gone beyond donating money, all this social intervention. It's just, to me, it's wrong. Nigerians are not beggars. Nigeria only needs you to create that enabling environment. At times I laugh when I see local government, state government, federal government giving 10,000, 500,000. It's shameful to a country like Nigeria.
Are you saying that this social intervention do not
We don't
really
need it.
improve the economy?
No. It's not even adding any value. I need to let you know that, number one, most of this money that are given to them, some of them, I remember vividly during the local government election last time, majority of people that collected that money used that money for election. Some use it to pay house rent. Some use it to feed their family and pay school fees. So it has not added any value to them. There are solutions to support these downtrodden people.
To them and the
environment.
Economy.
Take for instance, let me just share this with you. I'm looking at, people are talking about reform. Reform starts from the grassroots. I'm bringing aboard a local government that is viable. A local government, as a state government, I'm encouraging local government with the support of the federal government to the extent that within your local confine, you can have immigration office in your local government. That's how to build every community. You can have immigration. I liaise with the federal government. You can have standard organization. You can have quarantine. You can have standard organization, NAFDAC and the rest of them. Right. So if you are the entrepreneur that is into production, you don't need to travel far distance before you can get your permit, before you can get your certificate, before you can get all within your local confine, you can get it. Right. And again, also, I'm trying to ensure that what Nigeria needs at this particular time is e-government. The analog government needs to go. We are bringing on board in Lagos State e-government, so everybody will not be on the road all the time.
All right. Thank you, Segun, for that. Perhaps, Wale, you want to react to what he's saying?
Yes.
He's saying that social intervention is not really...
Well, I will touch on that,
but
very quickly, I'm not running for the position of the governor. So, but I do know that there is constitutional delineation of responsibilities. And so it will also be, it will do well if we understand the limits and the extent of the responsibility of state governments. Yes. Okay, so that's on that. But let me now respond quickly on two major issues that he talked about. He said that the governments have not really encouraged businesses. That I found a little strange. I mean, Mr. Akionsho just mentioned visa on arrival here. This is targeted at business people. We talked about the ease of doing business, anchored by the office of the vice president. The bottleneck, the bureaucratic bottleneck, you go through before registering a business name, for instance now, or a limited liability company, you don't go through some of those things again. I mean,
You think so?
of course, I am a lawyer. I incorporate companies for clients.
Online.
I know how long.
Because I know people who have gone through those rigors to get their business
they don't.
registered.
I know how long it takes me to reserve a name before now. Search and availability. I know how long. Right now, all I need to do is give me the name. I just run a quick search on the internet. It's there. So you know whether the name will fly or not. So these are part of the process of ease of doing business that the government has put in place.
Okay.
So to say that the government has not really encouraged businesses, I find that a little strange. Then the issue again of the social intervention, that there is no impact, that's also is a little mind-boggling. I mean, we talked about the Empower here now.
All right.
I mean, these are people that government will bring them in, train them, IT, agriculture, telecoms, whichever area of
I
interest.
just said that these people, most of them, use the monies that they collect, the soft loans, trader money, and all of it.
I'm talking.
It's not being monitored.
Yeah,
That's what it's saying.
yes.
And so they
No,
don't
no,
have, they have little or no effect on the economy.
no, just-
But gentlemen, we need to move forward.
Okay.
Quickly, we need to move forward. Now, let's look at the scorecard of President Muhammadu Buhari since 2015 when he assumed office. He promised to end Boko Haram insurgency, fix the economy, and fight corruption. But in recent times, there has been an upsurge in attacks by Boko Haram, same insurgent group that the federal government said it's technically defeated. How would you rate the president's performance in terms of security? Like you know, Dakbo, we just recorded some operational loss just some days or weeks ago where we lost some military men at Mitili attacks. And then we've seen pockets of attacks in several areas. And we are saying these people, insecurity has become an issue. We've talked about killer headsmen, also, issues where we have, all of these issues. And people are saying that the president don't seem to have tackled this thing head on. Our approach has been reactionary rather than offensive.
Thank you very much, Veronica. And it is sad when you see politicians making politics out of issues of security and the lives of soldiers. In the first instance, the Nigerian soldier, I must say, is one of the most dedicated, one of the hardest fighting force you will find. Everywhere in the world where they go, they come back decorated with medals for valor, for good performance. And you will find that we lost some soldiers, which is unfortunate, which is part of what they signed for. But it is really sad that the circumstances under which they lost. But going to the issue of Boko Haram, when the government said they have been technically defeated, we all know all over the world that you can fight a war, but when you're fighting a belief, an indoctrination like Boko Haram, it is more difficult to end totally. The war in Afghanistan, in spite of what the US government did, is still on. Iraq is there. Libya is there that have not ended. So when you have pockets of violence by people who are willing to die for what they believe in, it never ends. But in terms of defeat of the military incursions of Boko Haram, without any doubt, we had lost 17 local governments in Nigeria where the Boko Haram flag was flying as that a new state was being created out of Nigeria by the time this government came in. Today, there's no part of Nigeria that is ceded to them. But as you have said, what you have is incursions, people who come in and run out. And if you understand the nature of the terrain in the northern parts where they're fighting this war, the landmass is so vast that it is difficult. I mean, this is the first time you have the chief of army staff moving his operational base to where the war zone is. He's not operating from Abuja. The man has moved his operational and command base to the middle of the war. This is a chief of army staff that goes to every fighting point where the soldiers are. It has never happened before. So rather than demoralize them, we should encourage these guys and say, we can see what you're doing. Every territory that was taken over by Boko Haram has been reconquered. Now, when we speak of the issue of the headsmen and the clashes, we need to understand the nature of this, and it's actually economic. And it has nothing to do with religion or ethnicity or anything. But the headsmen follow a path, feeding their cattle from Chad outside Nigeria, following the river Nile, the Benue River, down to where there's pasture for the heads. We know of the environmental change, climate change, that has affected grass and the pasture that those things eat. So they always go near where there is water and there's agriculture. The Benue River Basin is one of the areas where food grows. The farmers there are farmers traditionally. Unfortunately, many of the farmers around that part are Christians. The Muslims, the Fulani headmen that are coming are traditionally Muslims. But what they're fighting for is the land. You came to my land, your cows ate my yams, is what the headsman, the farmer is fighting for. Attacks the headsman comes back to retaliate. That why did you kill me? And you see, we turn this thing because of politics again, which we play with around in this country. And this issue is purely economic. The people are fighting for their
But our
livelihood.
approach has been the challenge for most Nigerians, saying that the president or this government has not addressed this issue as it should. As it should have addressed it to curtail the activities of the headsmen. And also, when it comes to the fight against the insurgency, how our approach in terms of equipment, these people, their morale is not boosted, as some would say. And so all of these things have been seen as some of the issues that are challenging our fight against insecurity.
On the contrary, when you say a holistic approach, first of all, this administration is noted now to be paying soldiers salaries. You know, the time passed under the last administration, we had soldiers protesting that their allowances were not taken. We've heard cases now in open where soldiers were taking allowances of the soldiers and were paying their senior officers 500 million naira every month from wages that should have been paid to soldiers. But today, the soldiers are not complaining along that line. Equipment, just yesterday it was in the news that American government has ordered the Nigerian Tucano aircraft. The reason why those things were not done before was that all the money that was allocated for, we saw the defense contracts, and those monies were shared amongst people instead of being spent on purchasing equipment. But when you are going to buy equipment, it's not as if the ammunition is already there waiting for you to go and pick up. It has to be manufactured for your cost, to your specifications. It's ordered, it takes some time for delivery. And you need to be sure. And countries that sell them always sell them under license, under agreements. So there's a process that you cannot just go and start in one day and get. We've only been there 3 years. And you can see the great change that has happened in terms of recovering territories that were hitherto lost and were not part of Nigeria again.
Well, you want to say
Yeah,
something?
I just want to quickly say something. You see, the real test of whether the situation in the Northeast, the Boko Haram situation, the real test is what do the people think, the people living, the people really in the eye of the storm, okay? I don't know whether you followed up with the president's visits to Maiduguri some days ago. Now, you saw the rousing welcome. You see, that tells you something, okay? As a social commentator, I cannot be unhappy with you and give you that kind of welcome. These people know what they have been going through before now.
They didn't have homes.
They don't have homes. A lot of local governments were under the control of Boko Haram. And then the government came in with sincerity of purpose and intention. They were able to chase the Boko Haram people away. Then you can still have pockets of attack. So even the people knew what they were facing before now. And that was what informed the level of welcome that you saw that the president had. That is on the one hand. Then on the issue of Atmen, you see, Mr. Akiosho had given, a brief historical background of the genesis of the crisis between the herdsmen and the farmers. But it's gotten to a point in Nigeria that politics has taken over. And I say this thing to people. I grew up in Surulere. We used to go play football and we see these men back then. And they just hold one tiny stick. We play with them, they play. As a matter of fact, there was a particular incident that happened then. One of the cow just fell down and died, maybe it's poison or something. And the guy just simply moved on with the rest. There was no crisis. So at what point did they begin to carry AK-47?
All right.
You know, so these are the issues that we need to be addressing. Simply because you have a president that is from the Fulani extraction, then we need to keep saying that he's not done well. And then I'm wondering, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not calling names, but I'm wondering now that we have 2 Fulani presidential aspirants, I'm not beginning to hear that 8 men are killing any longer.
All right, let's get Segun's reaction.
Thank you very much. As a student of security, it may interest you to know that I also scored a presidency very good mark when it comes to fighting the Boko Haram. Considering where we're coming from, till now, I think they've done well. What we're experiencing now, we call it guerrilla warfare, and it takes a lot of strategic planning for you to be able to manage it.
But there's been calls that the security chiefs should be, fired.
You see, in guerrilla warfare, what you need to do is just to make sure you sensitize the people. The military cannot handle it alone, because somebody that is disguising just like the same way everybody dressed, just come within the community, just attack and disappear. You see, in managing that, it's globally, it's not only in Nigeria here, even abroad, developed countries. Fighting guerrilla warfare has been a very tough thing. So for this government, this administration to have taken care of all those areas that they live siege and taking back those communities and resettle the people back to that community, it's a welcome development. It's a pass mark, whether we like it or not. What the government needs to do now when it comes to security is to give that security back to the people. Sensitize their mind, prepare them in case you see any strange. These are things we are bringing to Lagos. When you see a stranger in Lagos, you know it's a stranger. These are areas to build security network within your confine. And these are ways to make sure you make your environment to be secure. We are bringing nightlife back to Lagos. So if you need medicine in the night, you can easily walk out. You can buy food in Lagos in the night. 24 hours, business are running in Lagos. Not the kind of Lagos we are in now.
Okay. All right, let's quickly move forward. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, that ruled for 16 years is trying to make a comeback. Their presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, says he will get Nigeria working again. If in the 16 years that they governed, they could not get Nigeria working, will 2019 make the difference? All right, Segun, I need you to react to that.
I think I will. I am not here to. I'm not here to actually measure the performance of PDP and APC, but I'm here to illustrate what has been the facts. The fact has been we are coming from the era of non-performance, and we are beginning to get something more like good performance. And I believe if we can sustain the tempo now, we'll be getting to where we are going. We've departed from the Stone Age, like he has said earlier on, the era of corruption, era of insincerity, irresponsiveness, and the rest. And we're looking at era that we can actually measure and illustrate performance. And I want to believe if the PDP and APC have anything to offer, they should put it on the table. Let's measure it. I know we have so many other parties that have lofty ideas that they're also bringing on board. I want us to narrow our mind towards, let's hear from all of them. So we don't limit it to the two gladiators. And we'll be able to identify other people that are coming with lofty ideas, ideas that will take us to the next level. We have this mindset that, oh, we have only two parties. But Nigeria has gone beyond that.
Yes.
This election will prove that.
You are from a totally different
I'm from a different party.
Yes.
We have departed from that long ago. Whatever you have, bring it on the drawing board. Don't put it in the pipeline. before it can get stuck. Put it on drawing board, let everybody see it. And we'll be able to criticize it constructively. We'll be able to say whether it can actually take us to the next level or not. And I want to also believe that measuring 16 years and 3 years is not enough for us to determine who is coming in as the next president or the next governor. What is of more interest to us is to ensure that everybody comes.
What are you bringing to the table? Yeah.
What you're bringing to the table, whether it will assist us to depart from the Stone Age to the modern age, because we definitely need to depart from analog to digital.
We are running out of time, and we need to get reactions from Dakpo and Wale here. All right, so Dakpo.
I want to thank Segun for becoming a convert to the next
He
level.
is to the next level.
To the next level. I had him agree. I had him commenting.
I'm here to say
I had him
fact.
commenting that we have to go to the next level.
Next level.
And that shows that
Well, then, in getting to the next level, we need to get the country working, right?
So, in terms of Atiku's slogan that we want to get Nigeria working again, I'm really worried
About what?
about the slogan that the plan they want to do is get Nigeria working again. If Nigeria was working the way he left it as vice president, which he was for 8 years, if it is that kind of work they want to take us back to, then we have a major problem on our hands. How can his own slogan is saying that he wants to get us back to what we were doing before? Working again means that he was working before, and then they want to take us where they were. And that, as we all know, is very dangerous. Between himself and his boss then, they could not work together. Obasanjo said so many
But his
damn
boss,
things.
you know,
He says he has now forgiven him.
He has forgiven him.
After he has left office for how many years? He's now forgiven. Now, just forgive. In his book, he wrote about him. He said he was the most insincere deputy. He could not go to sleep with his deputy, and now he wants him to come and rule this country. A man who he could not work with. I mean, don't let's even go into that, because I respected Obasanjo a lot. And you know, the flip-flops that you see, even Atiku as a person who wants to get Nigeria working again, has moved from one party to the other, back and forth, in search of only one thing: how we can get back into the tills. If you remember, and from the records that we see, as vice president, the only thing he got working were the parastatals he sold to himself and to his cronies. So we don't want to go back to that place again. That would be very dangerous for us as a country.
Let's get Wale's reaction to
Okay,
this.
now I have a boss who, for almost a decade or over a decade, has consistently said to me, "You are a thief, you are very insincere, you are dishonorable. If I have some honor in me, what am I going to do? I'm going to sue him for defamation." This has consistently been former President Obasanjo's narrative about presidential aspirant Atiku Abubakar. And then we've not seen that an action was filed in court against the principal. And all I've been doing is
Begging.
I keep begging. You're calling me a thief, and I'm begging you. So, if my boss says that this man, while he worked with me, he was insincere, he was a thief, is that what we want to go back? Working again. Again means that there is a particular way things are being done, then it stopped, and then we want to go back. That's what again means. So, of course, that's what it means. So if your boss says that you were stealing PTDF, Jefferson, Alibotin, all kinds, if that's what people say about you, and then that stopped, and you say we want to make Nigeria to work again, then it logically flows that we are going back to the Jefferson, the Alibotin, the PTDF, and the selling of government assets to myself and to cronies. I think it's a serious issue, to be very honest. And for us to be able to determine who is going to rule us, we need to make comparison between what you're saying and what your record says.
All right, let's quickly move forward. We're coasting home now. Segun, you are contesting the Lagos State governorship election. What do you plan to do differently from what the APC has been doing here?
We're actually departing from this approach of government of Lagos State is only about infrastructural development and beautification of Lagos. We are building capacity, we're improving our education, we are giving power back to the local confine. If you want to develop any state, definitely the local government must be the first target.
Okay.
If you've taken the autonomy away from the local government and you're taking all the resources from local government, definitely you will not be able to build
because
any
I need to
state,
quickly
any
ask this
viable
question, else these two people are going to have a serious fight with me after the show. Now, why should Nigerians vote for the president in 2019? Quickly, because we've run out of time.
The facts speak for itself. It's clear. We've seen what we've seen in 3 years plus. We talked about corruption. There is none. You can never say. Musa, will you agree with me here? The president.
Your new convert.
He's voting for us.
Our party is voting for us. A and P. There's no C in my own party.
He's voting for us. Veronica, I need to say this.
But seriously speaking as well, why should we vote for Buhari again? And I think, as he said, facts speak for itself. One, we want a country that is going forward. If we really want, you can see that serious businessmen and manufacturers are coming back into business. The country will work better if they have a chance to finish the projects they are doing. The social investment programs. Even if the monies, as you said, were being used to pay rent, the landlord got money, the estate agent got paid. So all that money is still going back into the system to make it work. It is different from a situation where you have 100 people who went away with 6 trillion naira. I mean, that kind of money in the hands of 180 million Nigerians, we know how much difference it will make. So we need to keep this government going so that the programs they've started will end well.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. Well, that is our package on today's edition of Standpoint. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can watch a repeat of this edition tomorrow by 7 a.m. I'm Veronica Danik Boy. Enjoy your weekend.